So hey guys, yeah, this is the episode 8 of the Rugby Recap. You have myself, Rugby H, as well as the Kiwi lads. And yeah, we're going to give you guys our review for this week's games. Again, we had a lot of games actually, because the Rugby Championship did end, and this week was really kind of the start of the World Cup really warm-up games, really. And they kind of happened in three actually, three different competitions really, because we had the one which was the summer series competition with all the European sides. We had really kind of a more Southern Hemisphere ones. One was a blood, so one was really just more of a World Cup warm up, and then we also had the Pacific Nations Cup, obviously, which did finish off as well. So we're going to give you guys just a brief overview of what we thought about all those games. We'll first start off with the Southern Hemisphere ones, as usual, but we'll first start off with the All Blacks Australia game. What did you think about that game?
Well, it was an eventful first half, wasn't it? And definitely not a half that a lot of people were anticipating. I saw a lot of comments at the start of that game saying the All Blacks, even though they've made all these changes, they're still going to have a similar result of what we saw in that last game between the two sides. I had people questioning Eddie Jones's selection, saying maybe he shouldn't have gone with the same side again to try and build up that chemistry. But the All Blacks, they struggled from the get-go in that first 40 minutes, and they just didn't seem to be able to find that next gear that they needed. They were giving away penalties. Australia were clinical on attack, which was absolutely fantastic to see for them, that even with the games that they've had of the Rugby Championship, they've still been able to progress just that little bit each. And every time that they play, second half though came around, and the All Blacks, unfortunately for the Australians, they did what the All Blacks do, and that is find a way to win.
Yeah.
And I would say that overall, it just seemed to be that the All Blacks, later on in the game, they wanted it more, and Australia couldn't stop their momentum. But we saw that happen so many times over these international fixtures. It was the team that was down at halftime, managed to make a monumental comeback in the second 40 and close out the game with a win. But what about yourself? What did you think of the Aussie performance? Were you happier with it?
See, it really was just kind of a game of two halves. At the end of the day, look, the Wallabies were pretty impressive, I'd say, throughout that opening half. I mean, you had those two quick tries from Corbetty as well as Hooper, and they really kind of got them on, rolling into the game. And they actually won a lot of the breakdown actually early on in that first half. But like you said, the second half it came into succession, and we kind of had we all kind of expected, the All Blacks to kind of come back to it. And yeah, they definitely showed their best. And I mean, it really came. I mean, the reason for that also was because they made some big calls actually early on as well, making some big substitutions actually, because they took McKenzie out and brought Luongo on. They brought Tungafasi. They brought a lot of kind of the. I'm not saying a lot of these are the main starters, but they brought a lot of substitutions early on, which is not what the All Blacks do normally. So it was a big call to make that, because they understood that Australia's doing pretty well here. We got to kind of pressure them early on to even win this game. So. Yeah, look, the All Blacks what more can I say? They were just incredible. I mean, I'm trying to think, who was my man of the match for that game? Like, I can't remember who I actually said, because was it, for some reason I thought I said Leicester, but I don't think I said Leicester. I said there was Rich Monga, there was Aaron Smith. Who was I can't even remember who I put out there. But, I was happy, though, for Stevenson and Finau, of course. We got their debut tries for them, so that was kind of good to see. But hopefully that kind of puts them maybe more in the conversation maybe for the World Cup, but we'll have to wait and see if they get it or not, because again, like we all know, the squads will be announced on Monday, and we'll give you guys a bit more detail, obviously, because I believe on both of our channels we'll be doing a live reaction towards that, as well as kind of just a whole video in general just about the All Blacks. So definitely look out for that one on both of our channels. But I guess we'll just move on quickly then towards the Pumas Safa game, what we just saw. I mean, a pretty impressive game, I'd say, throughout. Kind of a game, I'm not going to say it was as exciting compared to that Blood Cup game, but again, a good result overall for the Boks. And the Pumas did definitely kind of come into it early on. But what did you think about that game?
Yeah, it was once again, one side start off well, other side start off a lot better in that second half. Those first 10 minutes of the second half from South Africa, they were looking extremely dangerous, and it seemed like, to be honest, Argentina probably got lucky to only concede those 2 tries while the Boks were in that momentum phase that they had. That first half, I mean, the penalty count was high in this game. I think we saw maybe about 25 penalties between the two sides, if not maybe a little bit more. So discipline will be a problem going forward if those sides can't sort that out and up against a side that's going to punish you for making so many mistakes in the breakdown, giving away those penalties, like both of these sides would struggle, to be honest, which is a little bit of a shame. South Africa, they're looking at their next game now up against Wales in 2 weeks' time. Wales currently coming off a win up against England. We'll be mentioning that just a little bit later on. But I think that overall South Africa, they still seem to have that same thing that the All Blacks have, which is even in a game where they're playing badly, they know how to win. And that's something that you need definitely in a Rugby World Cup scenario. I talked about it when your back's up against the wall, when you're struggling to get up that last little part of the hill. That is when you normally see those big players either step up and those big sides step up, or some of the others just don't quite live up to the expectation. But for the Springboks, getting the win, they'll be happy enough with the victory. They won't be too happy with how they got there, but it's another win on the board, I guess.
Exactly. That's all that matters. But again, just to kind of finish off that one, I think if we had to say a man of the match for that game, who do you kind of pick out for that? Because I'm not going to say there was a lot of people that stood out. I mean, I guess you can say from an Argentinian standpoint, I think the most impressive player for me personally was Gonzalo Bertuano. I just thought he was good throughout the whole game, really, for them. Got the try, obviously. But I guess who was your man of the match for the game? I want to get your opinion on that.
Well, I have two that I'm deciding between. It's either got to be Damian Valimza or Canon Moody. Those two I feel really stepped up in this contest. Yeah. Moody was phenomenal. He got himself the try. Valimza, I think he set up the one try as well. So I think they both have relatively similar games. We saw probably a bit more of Valimza, seeing as he was playing that fullback, also slotting it a little bit more into the back line. But when Moody had the ball, he showed exactly what he can do. And showed that he wants that spot in that Rugby World Cup squad, which is getting announced in the very near future.
Yeah, no, it should be interesting to see what happens. But we'll then move on, of course, then towards, I guess, the Summer Nation Series in terms of those 3 games that were played. Well, first off with the Scotland versus France game. I don't think anyone saw this coming. Guys, I'll be completely honest in terms of my story. I wasn't able to watch this game live. Unfortunately, I was at the gym while this game was happening, and I kind of briefly just looked at my phone and I saw France winning 21 points to 3. I was like, okay, this game is done for. And then I finished my workout, head back to where I am now. I open my phone again and I see Scotland's won. I'm like, what? what just happened? Just from there to there, okay, wow, they've done something here. So what did you think of this game? Because I was just amazed to see that they actually came back into it.
Well, we did stream this game, and early on, France were firing in that back line. Quite a few young players getting the opportunity for this game, and just something was clicking so well for them throughout that first 40 minutes. Scotland was struggling. Then the second half came around, and Scotland ended up getting themselves a red card of Xander Fagerson. Yeah. And to be honest, that seemed like it was going to be the end of it. But then something happened in Scotland's mind, and they went, no, we're ready to go. This is now when we're going to start firing. And they did. They just kept on going and going, getting themselves a couple tries. Darcy Graham, I felt, had a tremendous game when he was involved. For France, I'd say probably Couillou was the best player out there on the field, the number 9, which is great news, so that they do know that if Antoine Dupont is injured or anything along those lines, they still have some great players that they can look at there. But yeah, 21 points to 3 up at halftime.
It's bad.
21 to 3 or 21-0 at halftime?
I'm not sure about that. All I knew is that when I looked at the score, it was 21-3 when I looked at it. It could have been 21 points to 0 at halftime, maybe.
I'm just having a quick gaze. I
wouldn't be surprised if it was 0 though.
21 points to 3.
It was
21.
Okay, it was 3.
So 21 points to 3 at halftime to then come back and win. 25 points to 21, keeping France scoreless in a half of rugby. Pretty impressive from Scotland. But the crazy thing about it is because it had happened in the game between the Wallabies and the All Blacks, it kind of felt like deja vu. Just because we'd just seen that happen, The All Blacks were able to do that same thing. No, surely not in one round of international rugby, but that is something that's so exciting about the Rugby World Cup coming up, is so many of these games are unpredictable. Yes, France had a few players in their starting lineup that they may not go with in that Rugby World Cup squad. Perhaps a few changes get made next week. But with the start that they had, they'll still be disappointed that these young blokes weren't able to get the job done because they did all the hard work early. But unfortunately for them, the mistake, I guess, was Bergeret getting head-butted and shoulder charged by Xander Fagerson. Now, if he had moved to the side of that breakdown, maybe Scotland stay with 15 and France still win this game. But
that'd be crazy. That's actually what would have happened. A Scotland red card is what made them win. It's crazy. It's crazy.
The halftime talk must have been great, though. Same with South Africa. Whoever's doing the halftime talks need a pay rise. Because
even the All Blacks. But I guess you expect it. I guess you kind of see they're the one team you kind of expect them to kind of come back into it. So I guess maybe it's not as, it's not like as like a shock really when they did it. But yeah, I guess we'll move on then from that game because again, an impressive result to say the least. But again, these two sides will actually face each other, I believe, in France the following week, if I'm not mistaken. So France will have an opportunity to kind of get the revenge, to say the least, in that one. But moving on then towards the next game, which was Wales versus England. Look, guys, I think out of all the games, this is probably the one where I didn't see this coming. Like, I actually did say before in my preview that I actually expected the Scots to actually give the French a challenge because they're actually normally pretty good at home against the French. So I actually said that they could actually win that. But this one, I was like, no, England's winning this one hands down. I was kind of convinced by that because I just thought Wales just were in a position where, unfortunately, their squad just has been in, they just haven't not been in the best form throughout this year. Obviously, going back towards even the Six Nations as well. But yeah, I mean, they got the result. This is probably the biggest win really for Wales this whole year. So this is a massive win for them. So I mean, I saw what's his name as well, the number 7. He was captaining the game, I believe, as well. Morgan.
Jack Morgan, was it?
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, I saw it was a good try I saw the try that they scored. I think it was like towards Davis who scored the try at the end of the day. But it was a really nicely worked try towards the right wing. Then did a few offloads in the process. Then he offloaded it towards Davis to score the try. But it just shows you Wales that you can never write them out, and they've done it once again. They've beaten England in the Millennium Stadium. So yeah.
Old principality, eh?
Exactly. But yeah. So what did you think about that game?
I got to watch moments of it overall just because it was around the same time as we were setting up for Scotland or for South Africa, versus Argentina. But from what I saw, the first half very tightly contested. Neither side willing to give away that try, sitting I think it was 9 points to 6 in favour of England at half-time. And then, Wales just getting that try near the end of the game alongside, I think, George North. Did he also get himself a try, if I'm not wrong, between the sticks?
I think he was the other try scorer. Yeah.
And it was just, it's nice to see upsets. It makes it very interesting to see what happens to the world rankings this week, though, because there's been a lot of games that could end up well and truly shaking it up a little bit.
Wait, does this... Oh, you made me think here. Wait, if I go to the Rugby World Cup rankings, because again, the All Blacks did overtake, the French actually to kind of claim the second spot. And the French obviously come down the third. But because of this loss of Scotland, because the thing is, Scotland
I think South Africa will be third now, to be honest.
That's what I'm saying. Could South Africa move up the ranks? Let me just see this. If I go to the rankings now, I want to see how close France. Yeah, so if I go here, okay, let's see this. So yeah, France is on 9.47. South Africa's on 888.36. Yeah, I could be wrong in saying this, but I don't think it's enough.
That sounded like quite a big margin, didn't it? Normally you bump up by maybe like a couple, and because of Argentina being down in the rankings, I don't think they'll get as much of a boost, although away from home for South Africa might help, whereas Scotland were at home up against France, so I don't know how much that will play into it as well. We shall find out soon.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously towards the last of the games in terms of the Summer Nation series, it was Ireland versus Italy. Ireland did, I think they're the only team really not to get a shock result here and obviously get the win against Italy pretty convincingly at the end of the day. I think they won more than 30 points on the board as well. So a good win for them. And it seemed like Kenan Doris had a pretty impressive game as well. 2 tries to him as well. So yeah, it just shows you that they're not messing around here. They're definitely still, even like with all this rugby championship, I think a lot of the Southern Hemisphere, including myself, is still kind of a bit, I guess, brainwashed in the sense like where we're thinking, okay, these Southern Hemisphere sides have played recently. They look amazing. The Northern Hemisphere must be like, looking at this like, oh my gosh, we're going to worry about this. But hey, Ireland is just saying, no, we're all good. We're all good here. We're going to perform as usual. We're going to do what we did last year against the All Blacks. We're going to just keep it at the high level as we normally do. But it's just fascinating because this World Cup is going to be, it's going to be crazy to watch. I just can't wait for it. I can't not wait for this World Cup. But what did you think of this game overall? Because again, this is really more of a, not really a shock victory, but what did you think of this? What do you think of this win?
I think Ireland, there's things that they can improve on from this game, although saying that it was their first match since the Six Nations in March.
Yeah.
I believe they've still got a warm-up game up against England in 2 weeks' time for the Rugby World Cup, and then also Samoa the week after that. So they've still got a little bit more time to get into that kind of rhythm. Italy, we got to see in action last week up against Scotland, which they didn't actually go too badly in that game overall. So it's nice to see that Italy, even in games that people are expecting them to lose, they're still able to score tries, still able to get themselves some points on the board. And I think that's down to the progression that they have shown over the last little while, being able to do something like that. But yeah, Romania versus Ireland, the first game of their pool in the Rugby World Cup. I think Ireland, I'm wondering what kind of lineup they put out for that game, because how many changes can you afford to make? When is Johnny Sexton going to be back? I think it's after that game, isn't it?
That's the big one for me. And I think we covered this in the previews, like where did they go with Sexton and give him game time once again? Which I think is probably the right idea. I think you have to give him game time leading up towards those harder group stage games, because luckily for them, they actually do play Romania first, then Tonga, and then they play South Africa and Scotland. So it's kind of a good order for them to kind of allow Sexton to kind of get back into things. So yeah, if they were to do that, it would make sense. But they can also go with Crowley, who's been pretty impressive here for Ireland. So I said Ireland, but like, anyway, that's just funny. That's funny. We're keeping that in. But no, it's kind of the result you kind of expect, guys, at the end of the day. So there's not really much more we can say on that front. But we'll then move on then towards the last one, which is the Pacific Nations Cup. And yeah, it's completed. It's finally done. And Fiji are victorious at the end of the day. They have not retained the trophy, but they've stolen it from, I believe, Samoa. Was it Samoa or Tonga? I think it was Samoa, right? He won it last year. So yeah, they've now stolen it from Samoa in that sense. Yeah, fair play to them. They just completely wiped the floor against Japan. With ease, really. And I was actually right in my. I know I'm moving quickly on to the next game, but I was completely right with saying that Samoa would smash Tonga. I said this, guys. I said this on the preview. Watch the preview, by the way, guys, because that'd be greatly appreciated.
Preview came out after that game happened, though, so people will be like, "Well, you kind of predicted it, but." It was afterwards.
It was afterwards, so it doesn't count.
He reviewed it.
But what did you think over all those two games?
I was sad that Samoa Tonga overlapped with the AB's game, to be honest. I was looking forward to being able to watch both of those separate. I'll still have to go back and have another look through at that Samoa Tonga one. But from what I saw in terms of the score updates and everything, Tonga just weren't quite able to get that try that they needed to build that momentum, which is something that they've managed to do up against Japan and up against the Fijians. Samoa, in that game late, they just kept on pouring on that pressure. I saw Malani Mataval. He managed to score himself the try, the Sevens boy, which is always nice to see.
As well. He scored a try for himself.
And I think you actually talked about him on the post-match preview, that you were looking forward to seeing him in action.
He's actually the one. He caught my eye. I was like, he can definitely put that into the World Cup. Just into the World Cup, really. So, like I said beforehand, I think Luatu at 8 and him at 6 really works out well. And with Jack Lamb there, it just makes it even better. So, Samoa's gonna be very fascinating to watch, by the way, guys, because that group, in terms of the group, I mean, we'll talk more about this in another podcast, but that group Group D is just gonna be incredible to watch, because England, Argentina, Japan, Samoa. Like, all these sides, besides, I'd say, Argentina, you could probably say just haven't been in the best form recently. So I mean, you could say Samoa's actually been in good form. Like Samoa could actually beat Japan, and Argentina could actually beat England, which is not what you expect, but it'd be like 2 upsets really in the whole World Cup group stage. So we'll see what happens there. But so yeah, no, with the Fiji Japan game as well. Like, what did you think of that? Because again, it was a pretty good win there for Fiji. So what do you think? Was it just a blowout? Like, what do you think? Do you think Fiji was more the better team at the end of the day, or do you think Japan is what really kind of they just weren't up for it really?
I think Fiji have shown once again that they will be a danger to Pool C, because Australia, Wales, Georgia, and Portugal, all in that group, seems to be the closest out of any of the pools at this stage for the Rugby World Cup. But yeah, the way that they were able to perform in this game, even with Japan getting that red card, before then the Fijians were already applying pressure and had already scored that first try of Waisia Naiatalevu. So it did seem like, yes, the red card may have helped just a little bit. Yeah. They were already on a roll. At that stage, Japan, I don't know what they're doing in terms of their hands
That's a great way to put
game, because they drop the ball in every scenario at the moment. Like, they're having 20 drop balls a game. Oh. And you're wondering, like, how? I mentioned about it on the live stream. I said, this is an international side, and they cannot catch a pass, which I think really hurts them, because if they play like that in the World Cup, they're going to struggle, because, everyone's going to have a scrum. And Fiji, their scrum was dominant in that game.
Let me do this. Was it as bad as the Blues as they've been in the past?
I think it was. I think throughout the Pacific Nations Cup, we've seen probably about 50 drop balls from Japan in 3 games. And that's not even an exaggeration. Every time they get the chance, it just drops straight down. They still got 2 tries, Nakabura and also Maziriwa late on in the game, but just didn't do enough, unfortunately, in the early stages to be able to really create their opportunity. But yeah, the Fijian scrum, it was strong. They were able to get themselves on the front foot quite nicely. Lamani, and it seems like maybe Kuravoli, they're going to be the 2 options at 9 for Fiji moving forward. Yeah, a lot of Fijian drill boys getting themselves the opportunities, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah, I love Frank Lamani. He's a great player to watch, just in terms of how he kind of attacks the game, because Fiji really do play a lot through him. Like, similar to what we see within Fiji Dura. Like, whenever he's on the international stage, he just attacks that ball, finds the option. He's quick with his passes as well. So yeah, I mean, I'll do a video in the future, actually, maybe on the ones to watch. I'll see, but he may be included in that. We'll see. Maybe he's one of the players I'll have my eye on. But besides that, guys, we're gonna leave it there. We've covered all the games really to what we've seen this week, which has been incredible. A lot of games, actually. But if I'm not mistaken, we'll have a bit less next week. There's only 2 games really we can kind of talk about for next week. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, next week, I believe in our preview, we'll be kind of talking more about what we think of the All Blacks in terms of in terms of the World Cup squad they've announced, as well as the Springboks. So that'll kind of really be more of the what the preview will be, really more of what the episode will be about for next week. But still, we'll kind of, I don't know, we may mention the 2 games. We'll see. But again, like I said, most of that will be for the All Blacks and Boks, of course, kind of covering that and giving you guys our perspective on that. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of it, really. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you, everyone, obviously, for watching. Definitely click the like button, guys. Subscribe, and definitely check out the Kiwi lads, and definitely check out my channel, of course. And yeah,
just hit 1K, didn't he?
Just hit 1K as well. Hit 1K. Thanks for making that happen, guys. But I'll probably do a video, by the way, on the channel very shortly, just to kind of just go over that. But anyway, see you guys.